Hi, I'm Fergus. I'm head brewer at Adnams. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the beers we make. So the beer we're going to talk about now is Explorer. So Explorer in bottle is 5%. We first did this beer back in 2003, 2004. Originally it was a cask beer particularly, it was about 4.3% I think. And then later on we put it into bottle as well and pushed the ABV up to 5. So the cask beer disappeared quite a few years ago, but the bottle is still here. It was Mike Powell Evans, who was the previous head brewer. It was really his recipe. He really liked some of the new new hop varieties coming out of the US, but up until that point we hadn't really used them. We were very much about English varieties, so Fuggles and Golding and Versco, which are all quite earthy and herbal, have a little bit of fruit characteristics, but pretty subtle really when you compare it to some of the American varieties that were coming out. So Mike particularly liked this combination of Chinook and Columbus, which are two American hop varieties. He liked the sort of citrus and the pine and the sort of grapefruit note you got from those particular varieties. Over the years, we've dropped the Columbus because I think as the sort of seasons passed and the new harvests come in, I think the variety changed a little bit for us, and it didn't really sit in this beer properly anymore, give it sort of a slightly harsher feel than we really wanted. So it's Chinook really that drives the flavour of this beer now. It was also the first time we really started dry hopping beers in tank. So dry hopping is the process where we're adding more hops essentially at the cold end of the process. So out of the brew house, into the fermentation tank, let it ferment, and somewhere after that sort of initial fermentation's finished, adding more hops in. And really it's about adding more layers of flavour in and more depth of flavour. And there's lots of different ways you can do it. You can do it when it's really cold, you can do it partway down, and they all have their different effects really. You can do it at different yeast counts, and again the yeast will interact with some of those flavours that the hops are sort of letting off into the beer and create something new as well. With this particular beer, we're really just looking for the straight grapefruit sort of citrus characteristic and a bit of pine coming from those hops. So we dry hop relatively cold, so we get that citrus sort of flavour without too much interaction with anything else. The malt, and it's very simple, so straight pale ale malt. Again, East Anglian, sort of Suffolk, Norfolk, grown and malted, just to give it a base to sit on. And then hops go in, give it that grapefruit characteristic. So it's obviously relatively pale. Straight away you get that sort of citrus grapefruit note. There's a little bit of sweetness from the malt, not too much. I think the bitterness is relatively high on this, so it's and the finish gravity is quite low, so it tastes quite dry. But I think that all works to sort of accentuate that sort of grapefruit note of the beer. Anyway, cheers. Let's explore it.